Hey everyone, and welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network's continued coverage of Hurricane Florence. I'm Alyssa Ashe, and so glad to bring this to you guys tonight. Thank you so much for waiting patiently over in the chat room on YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope as we fine-tuned a couple details. As you can see, we've got different radars up in the side and current winds where we are showing you guys the exact path of Hurricane Florence. Going to be showing you guys some live feeds tonight and kind of just looking and gathering as much information as we can get. And also, don't forget, if you have any articles that I may have missed, I know some of you have already been sending them in. Shout out to Ronnie Mercer and the British Patriot and Rick Bulow. Thank you for sending those throughout the day. If you have any information just to help me get more information out to you guys about Hurricane Florence, you know, maybe you have friends and family in the area and they've made some videos. Hopefully they have evacuated, but if they got anything before they got out, please send it to me over on Twitter at Alyssa RSBN. So I'm going to give you guys a look at the radars over here right now and share some more updated information for you all. So this is from CBS News that the threat becomes a reality as Hurricane Florence's onslaught begins. So real quick, just some fast facts about Hurricane Florence. Hurricane Florence, a Category 2 storm, has started lashing North Carolina with tropical force winds carrying drenching bands of rainfall onto some beach communities. Now, as of 8 p.m. Eastern Time, the storm is centered about 85 miles east-southeast of Wilmington, North Carolina, and about 145 miles east of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, moving northwest at 5 miles per hour with maximum sustained winds of 100 miles per hour, according to the National Hurricane Center. And hurricane force winds extend outward up to 80 miles from Florence's center, and tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 195 miles, according to the National Hurricane Center. Now, forecasters do not expect the storm to strengthen before it moves ashore, but they say the real problem will be water as it lingers along the coast through Saturday, just expecting feet of flooding. So nearly 1,500 flights canceled through Saturday. Duke Energy in the Carolinas anticipates 1 million to 3 million homes and businesses losing power. And 1.7 million people are under mandatory and voluntary evacuation orders, and more than 10 million people live in places currently under storm watches or warnings. So kind of looking at Wilmington, North Carolina, the big slush has begun and the consequences could be disastrous. The leading edge of Hurricane Florence battered the Carolina coast Thursday, bending trees and shooting frothy seawater over streets on the Outer Banks as the hulking storm closed in with 100-mile-per-hour winds for a drenching siege that could last all weekend. And tens of thousands are already without power, and the monster storm was moving in for a prolonged and potentially catastrophic stay along the southeast coast that could drench the homes of as many as 10 million people. Now, Florence's top sustained wind speeds dropped from a high of 140 miles per hour to 100 miles per hour early Thursday, reducing Florence from a Category 4 to a Category 2 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale, which rates hurricanes based on sustained wind speed. So forecasters said conditions will only get more lethal as the storm smashes ashore early Friday near the North Carolina-South Carolina line and crawls slowly inland. Now, its surge could cover all but a sliver of the Carolina coast under as much as 11 feet of ocean water, and days of downpours could unload more than 3 feet of rain, touching off severe flooding. Now, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper said he knows Hey guys, sorry about that. We had to work out those buffering issues and apologize to our viewers that were on Periscope or Twitter. Please check us out over here on YouTube or Facebook. And wanted to take a second and show you some different live cams you can see over here to my right or left if you're watching. So Joe worked really hard today getting these screens up. And you can see different feeds up here at the top, live feed from Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina, and you can see the rain just plummeting down under it. Nags Head, North Carolina. It's a little dark, but you can kind of see some of the surf in the ocean. And then Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, you can see that surf coming up as well. So also some more information from CBS News. So the Hurricane Center said in its 8 p.m. advisory Thursday that Florence is centered about 85 miles east-southeast of Wilmington, North Carolina, and about 145 miles east of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Now, the storm has maximum sustained winds of 100 miles per hour and is moving at a speed of 5 miles per hour, and hurricane force winds are blowing 80 miles from its center, and tropical storm force winds reached up to 195 miles from the eye. Now, hurricane force winds are moving closer to North Carolina's Outer Banks and the southeastern part of the state, according to the National Hurricane Center. So Florence's center will approach the coasts of North and South Carolina later Thursday, and it will move near or over the coast of the southern North Carolina and northeastern South Carolina in the hurricane warning area Friday. And the center said a slow motion across portions of eastern and central South Carolina is forecast Friday night through Saturday night. And forecasters warned that Florence is deadly because of its size and slow forward speed. Now, it is 500 miles wide. That is twice the size of South Carolina. And the National Hurricane Center said it truly is really about the whole size of the storm. The larger and the slower the storm is, the greater the threat and the impact, and we have that. And the National Hurricane Center said life-threatening storm surge and rainfall are expected. Now, the storm is expected to push up to 13 feet of storm surge and dump water on both North and South Carolina. And the forecast calls for as much as 40 inches of rain over 7 days along the coast, with the deluge continuing even as the center of the storm slogs away over the Appalachian Mountains. So the result could be what the Houston area saw back during Hurricane Harvey just over a year ago: catastrophic inland flooding that could swamp homes, businesses, farms, and industrial sites. So tornadoes also remain a threat. The National Hurricane Center said that it is possible a few tornadoes will hit eastern North Carolina through Friday. And the forecast track throws Georgia into potential peril as well as Florence moves inland. Now, on Wednesday afternoon, Georgia Governor Nathan Deal declared a state of emergency. And FEMA urged people to have multiple ways to receive local weather alerts through a weather radio, phone, and TV. And it also warned against the spread of false information and said it created a rumor control page for Florence that will be regularly updated. So also looking at those watches, warnings, and evacuations, about 5.5 million people live in areas under hurricane watches or warnings, and 4.9 million live in places covered by tropical storm warnings or watching, according to the National Weather Service. Now, the National Hurricane Center said in its advisory that the following watches and warnings are in effect. A storm surge warning is in effect for South Santee River, South Carolina, to Duck, North Carolina, and Albemarle and Pamlico Sounds, including the Neuse and Pamlico Rivers. And a storm surge watch is in effect for Edisto Beach, South Carolina, to South Santee River, South Carolina, and north of Duck, North Carolina, to the North Carolina-Virginia border. Now, a hurricane warning is in effect for South Santee River, South Carolina, to Duck, North Carolina, in Albemarle and Pamlico Sounds. And a hurricane watch is in effect for Edisto Beach, South Carolina to South Santee River, South Carolina. Also, a tropical storm warning is in effect for north of Duck, North Carolina to Cape Charles, Light, Virginia, and Chesapeake Bay, south of New Point Comfort, and Edisto Beach, South Carolina to South Santee River, South Carolina. Now, more than 1.7 million people in North and South Carolina and Virginia were warned to clear out. In South Carolina alone, more than 421,000 people have evacuated, according to the state's governor, Henry McMaster, on Thursday afternoon. And at a news conference just before 3 p.m. Eastern Time, he urged those in evacuation zones to leave now because time is running out. And he says, remember this, once these winds start blowing at that tropical storm rate, it will be virtually impossible for the rescuers to get in to rescue you. And he said, so if you have not left, if you're in a place of danger, or if you are in these zones, now is the time to go because that window of opportunity is closing on you very quickly. Now, according to Fox News, over 107,000 people are already without power. So according to CBS, an emergency management official in one of the most populated areas of coastal North Carolina said Thursday afternoon that winds from the storm have arrived and other impacts won't be far behind. New Hanover County Emergency Management Director Stephen Still said residents who didn't evacuate should expect 60-mile-per-hour winds by Thursday night that would eventually increase to 100 miles per hour or more. And he said residents can expect to have that wind to the tune of 100 miles per hour plus stay on us for a considerable period of time. And he said landfall is expected around 8 a.m. Friday night from the Wrightsville Beach area, and that the area could see 20 to 30 inches of rain and beaches could get 9 to 10 feet of storm surge. Now, Thursday afternoon, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper said 1 million people have evacuated. Now, at least 12,000 evacuees have settled at 126 shelters in the region. And he also said that 2,800 National Guard troops have been activated. And President Trump took to Twitter again Thursday to warn about Florence, urging people to be careful, saying, "We are completely ready for the storm." On Wednesday, he said, "Don't play games with it. It's a big one." Now, also looking at many power outages along the coast, power outages in North Carolina have increased as a weakened and slower Hurricane Florence moves closer to the coast. Now, the two major electric utilities covering the state, Duke Energy and Dominion, and a consortium of electric cooperatives reported more than 80,000 customers without power as of early Thursday evening, and that doesn't include numbers from dozens of city-operated electricity providers. So almost 2/3 of the reported outages originated in Carteret County along the coast about 100 miles northeast of Wilmington, North Carolina. And there were also several thousand outages in Craven, Pamlico, and Onslow counties. So the numbers are expected to soar as the storm's winds and torrential rains sweep over more land. Duke anticipates 1 to 3 million of their 4 million customers in the Carolinas will lose power from Florence. Now, Hurricane Florence could inflict the hardest hurricane punch North Carolina has seen in more than 60 years. In 1954, the state was hit with Category 4 Hurricane Hazel. And Jay Barnes, who is an author of books about the hurricane histories of both North Carolina and Florida, said Hazel stands as a benchmark storm in North Carolina's history. We had a tremendous amount of destruction all across the state. So as you can imagine, Hurricane Florence is also affecting car flights and flights and car travel. So airlines canceled about 1,000 200 flights and counting. As of Thursday afternoon, total cancellations within, into, or out of the U.S. was 603 for the day, while 650 flights were canceled for Friday, according to the flight tracking service FlightAware. Now, CBS News correspondent David Begnaud reported this week that people living in the Barrier Island community of Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina, were bracing for a possible direct impact. Long lines formed at service stations, and some started running out of gas as far west as Raleigh, with bright yellow bags, signs, or rags placed over the pumps to show they were out of order. And some store shelves were picked clean. Now, Kristen Harrington shopped at a Walmart in Wilmington. She said there's no water, there's no juices, and there's no canned goods. So South Carolina said it is planning to end the reversal of some interstate lanes that were switched to help people move away from the state's coast. And Department of Public Safety Director Leroy Smith told reporters that starting Thursday at 6 p.m., officers will close Interstate 26 lanes that had been switched from eastbound to westbound to move people away from the Charleston area toward the center of the state. Now, many officers are on the road during lane reversals, manning each exit and ensuring drivers don't drive around barricades. Now, the change allows agencies like Smith's to pull back their officers when tropical storm force winds are expected to arrive in the state. So also, West Virginia is preparing for Hurricane Florence. West Virginia agencies are mobilizing to respond to problems arising from the storm. The governor's office said in a new release, the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management activated its Emergency Operations Center Wednesday, and the statement said 50 National Guard members are prepared to assist in locations across the state. So nearly 70 tractor-trailer loads of supplies have arrived at the Guard's 167th Airlift Wing in Martinsburg. Now, in June 2016, a series of thunderstorms pelted a wide swath of West Virginia, and 9 inches of rain fell in 36 hours in some areas, leaving 23 dead statewide and destroying thousands of homes, businesses, and infrastructure. So the National Weather Service forecast said up to 4 inches of rain is possible in parts of West Virginia through next week. Now, I'm going to give you guys a live look at the hurricane. This is from windy.com, which is a really cool interactive weather website. And you can see just how close Hurricane Florence is right now to the coast of North Carolina. And I also got a couple articles from some of our viewers. Thank you so much for sharing those with me. Rick Bulow and Ronnie Mercer. Going to pull some of those up real quick. So Rick Bulow sent one from WSBTV.com. Thank you so much for that, Rick. And it says, Atlanta Motor Speedway opens campground for Hurricane Florence evacuees. So the Atlanta Motor Speedway announced Tuesday it will be opening its campgrounds for Hurricane Florence evacuees, and the campgrounds will be open for free to dry RV and tent campers, and a limited amount of spaces with water, power, and sewer will also be available for $20 a night. Now, Hurricane Florence is currently a major Category 4 storm. It was at the time this is written. As you know, now it is a Category 2, projected to hit the Carolinas Thursday night and now we're seeing that it's projected to hit tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. So the Speedway has in the past opened its doors to hurricane evacuees, including more than 100 campers during Hurricane Irma last year. And that's great. Swoosh for Trump says we have evacuees at the Charlotte Motor Speedway too. They're giving free tours. Now, looking at some more information, another article from Rick Bulow. Thank you for this. This is from the Post and Courier, that the SC Midlands face first ever inland tropical storm watches as Florence nears. So this is from Columbia. For the first time ever, the Columbia office of the National Weather Service has issued a tropical storm watch for western parts of the Midlands, a designation that has traditionally been reserved for the mostly at-risk areas of South Carolina's coast. And the National Weather Service changed how inland offices classify high wind forecasts earlier this year, aligning the process with coastal offices, which Columbia forecaster Chris Robach explained was intended to avoid confusion. So in the past, inland offices would only issue wind advisories or high wind warnings and watches. So for previous storms that have touched the Midlands, like Hurricanes Hugo and Floyd, the warnings have been different. But the new classification highlights the extent to which tropical storm force winds with sustained speeds of around 30 to 40 miles per hour and gusts of up to 55 miles per hour are threatening deep inland South Carolina, not just the coast, posing risks for residents far away from the hurricane center. And those wind speeds can lead to power outages and large trees or tree limbs breaking, blocking roadways, and potentially causing building damage. Now, the wind alone can damage smaller, lightweight structures like porches or sheds, Robach said. So as of Thursday, at least 17 South Carolina counties were under some kind of watch or warning, either for hurricane or tropical storm force winds. And the tropical storm watch extends as far west as Lancaster County, some 140 miles inland from Myrtle Beach. So the surrounding area closer to Columbia could be added to the tropical storm watch in the future. But even if it's not, residents in the area should prepare for similar conditions. And Robach said that way they're preparing for the worst case scenario. And if that doesn't happen, they're no worse off. So beyond the wind, emergency officials say the most significant risk to inland communities stems from likely flooding, and rainfall in the Midlands around the Columbia area could reach up to 10 inches over the weekend, exponentially more than the 1.5 inches that the region has experienced in the last month combined. And the National Weather Service in Columbia has issued a flash flood watch throughout the middle of the state that will be in effect from Friday morning through Sunday evening. And the latest forecast of the storm's trajectory takes it directly through the heart of the state over the course of the weekend. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster said Wednesday that the storm's unpredictability should place residents all over the state on guard. And McMaster said this is a different kind of hurricane. This is not one that's going to hit the coast and pass through quickly. This is one that's going to hit the coast and stay maybe for 2 days, and it's going to be staying right over South Carolina. Now, U.S. Representative Ralph Norman, whose inland district includes parts of Sumter County, said residents far from the coast should not assume they're safe from the storm's worst conditions. And Norman said it's not anything to take lightly. People who think it's not that serious are underestimating, and unfortunately, they'll pay a price for it. So going to let you continue. I'm going to zoom in a little bit to take a look at this live radar here from windy.com, and you can see Hurricane Florence already making contact with the coast of North Carolina. So we are actually also going to take a minute. We're going to look at a Facebook Live map and see what people are saying about Hurricane Florence and what they're actually showing us as well. You can see right here on this map, all the little blue dots. People are live streaming all along the coast right now of North and South Carolina.
Away from the water, and to speak to that. Categories. He felt pretty confident that he could ride out the storm. That's not to say that you should take the storm lightly, but that's one of the reasons why you're still seeing cars and some businesses that have not opted to board up their windows and whatnot.
And that was a quick look from ABC News Live, and we're going to keep looking and just really trying to see what other people are showing. People that may not have evacuated yet. I'm going to zoom out.
Green. Okay, the first thing.
And this was really all over social media today. I know you saw earlier that flag, the American flag, just getting torn up at Nags Head. I'm going to show you guys some flooding as well.
Boulder already without power tonight. A nuclear power plant here in the path shutting down. And the hurricane hasn't even made landfall yet. 1.7 million under evacuation orders. I found shelters today that were full. Folks telling me they've been sent elsewhere. At this hour, Hurricane Florence is massive. Tropical storm force winds will stretch.
So you could see just some of the massive flooding here. They're in North Carolina. And we will be checking Twitter as well to see what people are saying about Hurricane Florence, or even showing some of those pictures and videos. And here's an update from Fox News that Hurricane Florence lashes North Carolina coast with punishing winds, officials say. So Hurricane Florence moving at a slower speed of 5 miles per hour with life-threatening storm surge and rainfall forecasted, officials said. And gusty winds were pummeling the southeastern coast by Thursday evening as a tattered American flag was seen flying feverishly on a live surf camera at Frying Pan Tower in North Carolina. And the National Hurricane Center said that hurricane force winds have begun hitting the state's coast in an 8 p.m. update. And the storm is currently situated roughly 85 miles east-southeast of Wilmington, North Carolina, and about 145 miles east of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, the National Hurricane Center said. And Florence is moving northwest at 5 miles per hour with maximum sustained winds of 100 miles per hour, the update said. And the update also said on the forecast track, the center of Florence will approach the coast of North and South Carolina later tonight and then move near or over the coast of southern North Carolina and northeastern South Carolina in the hurricane warning area on Friday and a slow motion across portions of eastern and central South Carolina is forecast Friday night through Saturday night. And the storm, listed as a Category 2, is likely to bring significant rain to the Carolinas, where some places could see upwards of 20 inches, the update said. This is expected to cause catastrophic flash flooding and prolonged significant river flooding. And the agency said a mix of storm surge and tides could result in flooding from rising water levels. Cape Fear to Cape Lookout, North Carolina, could see as much as 7 to 11 feet of water, according to the update. So storm surge and hurricane warnings were in effect for South Santee River, South Carolina, through to Duck, North Carolina, as well as Albemarle and Pamlico Sounds in North Carolina, the agency said. So areas from Edisto Beach to South Santee River in South Carolina were under both the storm surge and hurricane watch, while areas located north of Duck, North Carolina to the state's border with Virginia were under a storm surge watch, according to the update. And Hurricane Florence is forecast to progressively weaken after its center meanders near the coast or moves inland, the update said. And 7,000 troops are prepared to deploy in response to Hurricane Florence, according to Air Force General Terrence J. O'Shaughnessy. He said this during a Pentagon briefing on Thursday. And the troops have surrounded what are expected to be affected areas and are ready to deploy as soon as the request is made. Now, the storm's size and sluggish track could cause significant damage in the area, forecasters predicted. And the National Hurricane Center Director Ken Graham said it truly is about the whole size of the storm. The larger and the slower the storm is, the greater the threat and the impact, and we have that. Now, the hurricane was seen as a major test for FEMA, which was heavily criticized as sluggish and unprepared for Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico last year. And as Florence drew near, President Trump tweeted that FEMA and first responders are supplied and ready, as he disputed the official conclusion that nearly 3,000 people died in Puerto Rico, claiming the figure was a Democratic plot to make him look bad. And schools and businesses as far as South Carolina were closed. About 1,200 flights and counting were canceled, and coastal towns in the Carolinas were largely emptied out. Now, if you're getting ready for Hurricane Florence, please be safe and evacuate if you have not gotten out yet. So going to give you guys another minute to take a look at this live radar from Windy. You can see moving in and approaching the coast of North Carolina, already making contact with the coast of North Carolina. And also received some photos from one of our viewers, JC, that I will be sharing with you guys. And this is from ABC 7. So some Hurricane Florence photos. It says Hurricane Florence begins days of rain and wind. And you can see people right here. The water is all the way up to their knees in the streets. And this says Cheyenne Coleman gets a hand from friend Austin Gremmel as the News River begins to flood its banks during Hurricane Florence, September 13th, 2018 in New Bern, North Carolina. And you can see flooding all the way to the top of this sign. It says park closed due to storm. And people the water almost up to their waist here. It says residents wade through deep flood water to retrieve belongings after the News River went over its banks during Hurricane Florence in New Bern, North Carolina. And another picture here. This is absolutely devastating. It says portions of a boat dock and boardwalk are destroyed by powerful wind and waves as Hurricane Florence arrives on September 13th, 2018. This is in Atlantic Beach. And you can see just how just portions of the boat dock just completely destroyed. Planks of wood all in the water. And right here it says residents trying to prepare for more floodwaters as the Trent Court Apartments after the News River went over its banks during Hurricane Florence. And right here, floodwater covering the walkway to the Bridgepoint Hotel and Marina as the News River floods its banks during Hurricane Florence. And this is in James City, North Carolina. Now another picture you can see, overwash is seen on North Carolina 12, just north of Hatteras Village as Hurricane Florence approaches. And you can see the water even going over the dunes right here. So this is overwash on Route 12 in Avon, North Carolina, and this is this afternoon. And here you can see waves reaching the top of the pier. This is the Bouge Inlet Pier in Emerald Isle, North Carolina. And here you can see some inland flooding. This is this afternoon in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. And here again, waves from Hurricane Florence pounding the Bouge Inlet Pier in Emerald Isle, North Carolina. And here you can see a crazy picture. Fishermen actually launching a boat as they attempt to recover their haul seen fishing net in Virginia Beach, Virginia, as Hurricane Florence moves towards the eastern shore. And another picture, crazy. The waves are higher than the pier right here. Waves from Hurricane Florence pound the Bouge Inlet Pier in Emerald Isle. And here policemen are blocking a road near a drawbridge to Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. And here you can see sandbags surrounding homes on North Topsail Beach, North Carolina. And actually brave enough to be out in the ocean, body surfer Andrew Van Otteren of Savannah, Georgia, crashes into waves from Hurricane Florence on the south beach of Tybee Island, Georgia. And here, this is a sweet picture. Korea War veteran Ed Coddington, 83, and his wife Esther, and Maria McLeod, her aunt, and her daughter Kimoni are waiting in a shelter for Hurricane Florence to pass. It says 2 people hold hands while walking through a shelter housing evacuees fleeing the path of Hurricane Florence in Conway, South Carolina. And here a man walks past a boarded up shop in Wilmington, North Carolina. You can see they wrote "Pray for Wilmington" on the boards there, and then they have some different shelters that they wrote up on these boards so that people will know where to go. Here you can see some poolside furniture actually placed in the pool of a hotel ahead of approaching Hurricane Florence so that it will not blow away. And this is Andrew Lingle. He walks along the beach at sunrise as Hurricane Florence approaches the East Coast in Atlantic Beach, North Carolina. So this is a beautiful picture. This was actually last night, kind of the calm before the storm. And here, I think I actually showed you guys this yesterday. You may have seen it. Margie Brown, 65, says goodbye to her father, George Brown, 90, before he's evacuated from a healthcare home in Morehead City, North Carolina. Definitely a hard goodbye. And here, a sign is seen on a boarded up bar in Wilmington, North Carolina. And a boat is docked partially in the road as workers pull boats from the water in Wanchesee Harbor in Wanchesee, North Carolina, as Hurricane Florence approaches on September 12th. So here you can see people lining up to enter a hurricane shelter at Trask Middle School in Wilmington, North Carolina. This is a couple days ago on September 11th. And another view of that line at Trask Middle School. Here you can see workers are actually taking boats out of the water in Wanchesee Harbor as Hurricane Florence approaches the coast of the Carolinas. And a gas station at Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, alerts motorists that it's out of gas due to the heavy demand caused by Hurricane Florence. And here you can see it says this long-haired tabby cat is up for adoption and is one of 26 animals being evacuated from Norfolk, Virginia to Humane Rescue Alliance in Washington ahead of Florence. And another pet, Francis, an 8-year-old Chihuahua mix up for adoption. One of the 26 cats and dogs arriving at Humane Rescue Alliance in Washington ahead of Florence. And if you are evacuating, make sure to take those pets with you. That is a very popular comment that a lot of you always say over on Facebook, over on YouTube. Take those pets with you. Do not leave them behind. And here's another one you can see peeking through the window. Ryder, a mixed breed dog up for adoption, looks out from an enclosure at Hurricane Rescue Alliance in Washington after being evacuated from Norfolk, Virginia. So you can see another pet here, Miss Kitty, a short-haired cat up for adoption, was among the animals evacuated from Norfolk, Virginia. And here a worker is covering a window at Charleston City Hall in Charleston, South Carolina. And this was a couple days ago, a surfer actually catching a wave with a Navy ship behind him in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And sailors cast off mooring lines to the Military Sealift Command hospital ship USNS Comfort Tuesday, September 11th. And Emmett West pulls his boat from a nearby marina to secure it at his home ahead of Hurricane Florence in Morehead City, North Carolina. And here, Michelle Stober of Cary, North Carolina, removing food from a freezer as she prepares their vacation home in advance of Hurricane Florence in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. So here, Adam Bazemore places sandbags in the doorways in the Willoughby Spit area of Norfolk, Virginia, as he makes preparations for Hurricane Florence. Here you can see more people boarding up those windows. Russell Meadows on the left helps neighbor Rob Mueller board up his home ahead of Hurricane Florence in Morehead City, North Carolina. And workers are boarding up the Wrightsville Beach Art Company while preparing for the arrival of Hurricane Florence on September 11th, 2018. And Preston Gewer carries a sheet of plywood as he prepares to board up a Wells Fargo bank in preparation for Hurricane Florence in downtown Charleston, South Carolina. And this is a sign actually warning customers that alcohol sales are suspended due to a state of emergency at an Exxon station in Harbinger, North Carolina. And here, Derek Mundy on the left and Chris Krause boarding up the Confederate House in preparation for Hurricane Florence in downtown Charleston, South Carolina. And a tiki bar sits empty with the message "Flow Away," and this is on Topsail Island, North Carolina, where businesses and homes have been boarded up. So also people driving over a drawbridge in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina, as they evacuate the area in advance of Hurricane Florence. You can see just how bad that traffic is. This was back on Tuesday as residents are evacuating from coastal areas near Wallace, North Carolina. And this is an aerial view on September 10th of Avon, North Carolina in the Outer Banks ahead of Hurricane Florence. So here you can see Larry Pearson, he's from Isle of Palm, South Carolina, purchasing bottled water from the Harris Teeter grocery store in prep for Hurricane Florence. So those are all the pictures. A huge thank you to JC for sending those so that we could get some better visuals. So going to give you another live look at the forecast. So this is that live hurricane radar from windy.com. And getting some more information in for you right now. Stay tuned. Really interesting article one of our viewers sent my way, Rick Bulow. Thank you so much for this. It is from Fox News. And it's really interesting, actually. It says, Hurricane Florence, here's why I'm not evacuating. And it says two things. If you plan to wait out a hurricane, there is gas madness until there's no gas. And don't even think about sandwiches because there's no bread. You have not lived until you see people load 10 loaves of bread into a shopping cart 5 days before a hurricane hits. Bread hysteria. I said to some fellow shoppers, folks, I'm actually here to get hot dog buns for dinner tonight. Who wants to relinquish one of their 8 loaves? And sure enough, a woman gave me her hot dog buns. People can be awesome. And this is by Jeremy Tomanek. And he says, if you ask me why I didn't evacuate Wilmington, North Carolina in the eye of Hurricane Florence, I will say waves and hurricane parties. This is true too. He says, really, he feels compelled to stay and help out in any way he can in the aftermath of the storm. He says, I have a chainsaw trailer and a 4x4 Suburban. Myself and other members of the Cape Fear rugby team have banded together and plan to start limbing trees and dragging debris just as soon as the storm passes. He said, the other reason I plan to wait out this hurricane is to remain close to my home and look after my property if Florence crushes it. You see, if you flee, it can be very hard to return because of the flooding and storm damage. So if your house gets a massive hole in it while you're displaced, it will get rained on for 2 weeks and be raided by wildlife. You got to defend your home. As my friend Mark put it while we were sitting in Waterline Brewery, death before dishonor. And he says, when I stocked up for the storm, I got 4 80-packs of water, 3 12-packs of other drinks, pudding cups, granola bars, dried fruit, Gatorade, and meat to freeze for grilling. Then I filled every container and bucket I could find with water to use. I can live for days without power, and water cures all. He says, I have a beautiful wife, Allison, and 4 kids, ages 13, 10, 7, and 6. So once it became apparent that Florence was not to be taken lightly, we knew above all else the children had to get to safety. So the decision was made to separate for the hurricane. He says, I boarded up the house, tightened up the yard, and got the kayak ready so I can get mobile if it floods like crazy. At 5 a.m. Wednesday, Allison and the children evacuated and drove up to her awesome mom's house in West Virginia. And the National Hurricane Center had updated Florence about an hour before as approaching Category 5 status and set to make landfall in Wilmington, North Carolina. And he says there's a lot of uncertainty when we said goodbye, but we were upbeat and positive as the kids were happy to be on a road trip and out of school. It's possible we will be separated for a week or more, but let's hope they can get back Sunday or Monday. And he says, so as I'm typing this, Hurricane Florence is just beginning to land and is starting to sound intense out there. Last I heard an hour ago, it was going to make landfall soon and was currently a Category 2 with sustained 100 mile per hour winds. I hope that it slows down a bit. That's way stronger than any storm I've ever been through. So it's going to be an experience hunkering down and riding this thing out. I do not plan to sleep tonight. A lot of other folks are doing the same thing. And he says, whatever your decision may be, stay safe out there. So also, if you would like to help us stay on the air, because we are donor funded, real quick, wanted to tell you the ways you could do that. You can donate in the YouTube super chat below where that $sign is, and you can go to rsbnetwork.com/donate and you'll see the different options there. So thank you so much to our regular and occasional donors. Really appreciate you guys. Every penny counts. So thank you so much for donating. And I am just taking a second to pull up some more information for you guys right now. So stay tuned. Going to let you continue taking a look at that live radar from windy.com, and also wanted to show you a couple different cameras we have over in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. You can see the rain is just absolutely plummeting down kind of over the camera. And also going to give you a look at Myrtle Beach. It's kind of dark, but you can see just from the last time I checked, the surf is continuing to rise and getting closer to the pier. And also going to show you some different numbers we have. You can see those wind levels in North Carolina. Looking at, they are switching, but Manteo 25 miles per hour with 35 mile per hour gusts, and Kill Devil Hills 14 miles per hour. And you can see that live radar right there, just switching. And it looks like this is kind of a little bit more north, so you can see as we are zooming out where exactly Hurricane Florence is right now. And awesome, we just got a $14.99 donation from Roger Roll. Thank you so much for that, Roger. Really appreciate that. And he said, excellent broadcast package. Thank you, Roger. So going to leave this up for a second as it switches between a couple different scenes. You can see current winds in West Point, 10 miles per hour, and switching over to the eastern shore, Wallops Island, 26 mile per hour winds with 35 mile per hour wind gusts, and over in Edenton, 17 mile per hour winds with 30 mile per hour gusts. So also looking at another article, thank you British Patriot for sending this my way. This is from Mashable.com about how Hurricane Florence is forecast to dump a historic amount of rain. Here's how much. So Hurricane Florence is slowly but surely moving toward landfall along the East Coast, and while its winds have decreased, making the storm a Category 2, it's still an incredibly powerful and dangerous storm with extreme rains expected to fall over the course of the next few days in the Carolinas and Virginia as it slows near the coast. Now, that slowdown could produce historic amounts of rain for that part of the country if current forecasts hold. And meteorologist Ryan Mao of Weather Models tweeted some projections on Thursday morning. His models suggest that around 17 trillion gallons of rain will fall across North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and Georgia, with some spots receiving as much as 30 inches of rain before Florence is finished. So that is an astounding amount of rain, sure to lead to widespread flooding and billions of dollars in damage. Now, kind of a comparison, over 24 trillion gallons of rain fell on Texas and Louisiana from Hurricane Harvey last year. So also, Mao points to geography as a factor, saying that these storms have a tendency to really wring out the moisture when they come up against the Appalachian Mountains. And it also won't help matters that a ridge will hold Florence in place, keeping the storm from moving very much for a few days. And Mao said it's blocked right now to the north, to the west, to the east right now. So the only place it can really go is a little nudge south until it can eventually go around the ridge and move north. Now, kind of just to get an idea of what it would be like, the forecast amount of rain is kind of hard to wrap your brain around. So what does 17 trillion gallons look like? It would fill 26 million Olympic-sized swimming pools, and that much water could fill up nearly 3.5 Great Salt Lakes. And we just got a $20 donation from Christo Mita. Thank you so much for that, Christo. Really appreciate you. That'll definitely help us continue to do broadcasts just like this one, and also travel to President Trump rallies, hoping for one next week in Phoenix, Arizona. That's just what we've heard, so stay tuned, because we are not sure yet. It's not official, but that is what we've heard. So thank you so much, Christo. Really appreciate that generous donation. So kind of finishing up this Mashable article, it's important to remember that these numbers are just predictions for now. We won't actually know how much rain falls on the U.S. from Florence until it actually happens. And Mao notes that the heaviest rain could reach inland all the way to Raleigh, which is about 150 miles from the North Carolina coast. And the National Weather Service says local amounts in some areas could top 40 inches. And whatever the totals wind up being, Florence is sure to bring destructive winds, rain, and floods to the area, meaning that a long cleanup and recovery process is to come. So again, thank you so much to everyone who has sent me Twitter messages. Remember, if you have any more information that I may have missed, you can send it to me at Alyssa RSBN on Twitter. That would be so appreciated. Whether that's pictures or tweets, videos of the storm, make sure to send them my way. And pulling up a couple tweets. Looks like a couple of you have tagged me on some things, and I tweeted out a couple things earlier that I wanted to share with you guys. Just some different pictures and video of the flooding. If you were watching my broadcast earlier today about Hurricane Florence, you may have already seen this one. So this is from Stephen Graves, 13 News Now, and he says, take a look at North Carolina 12. It's the main road through Hatteras Island. This is what folks were worried about if they evacuated. He said flooding has started in Rodanthe about 10 a.m. and people fear it'll get worse. And moving up, going to show you guys another video. This one is absolutely crazy. It's from Caroline Patricus. And over on YouTube, DJ Renee asking me to show the videos again because he just logged on. So I'll give you another look. This is from Stephen Graves at 13 News Now. He says, take a look at NC 12. It's the main road through Hatteras Island. This is what folks were worried about if they evacuated. Flooding has started in Rodanthe at about 10 a.m. and people fear it'll get worse. And moving up, I'll show you that other one real quick. Again, from Caroline. Patricia's really crazy. She says, wow, Hurricane Florence is making an impact already as the outer bands reach the Carolina coastline. This is from Carolina Beach in Topsail, North Carolina. Video from Live Storm Chaser. And no sound on this part of the video, but you can see just how bad the flooding is. Really cool aerial view. And also going to give you guys a live look of a New Spring Church campus in Myrtle Beach, where you can really see the winds. You can see the wind swaying the palm trees. Thankfully, electricity is still on. And they said, we know a lot of our No Ordinary family have evacuated and wondering how Hurricane Florence is affecting the coast. Here's a look at New Spring Church, Myrtle Beach. Feel free to share with friends and let us know how we can be praying for you. So going to let you guys take a look at that for a second. Unfortunately, there's no sound while I get some more information ready.
We're feeling the first.
And also going to share with you guys a quick clip, just part of one that one of our viewers sent us.
We're feeling the first.
And we are just going to look at part of this. the outer bands of Hurricane Florence rocking the North Carolina coast. Just going to take a look at the first minute.
We're feeling the first outer bands of Florence, and you know, as we've been seeing all day, this storm is enormous, and that storm surge Janice is talking about, just look at this pier. The 9 to 13 foot surge isn't anywhere near here yet. We have almost 24 hours for it to develop, and you can see the pier rocking as it takes these waves. You're talking about a little bit of common sense advice and the simple things. Well, this is the part here in Atlantic Beach, North Carolina, where we start talking about be safe. If you see water, turn around, don't drown. We are already seeing some flooding coming in because of the low-lying areas as you head towards Morehead City behind me. But right now, we are seeing the first of the water starting to surge in. And I talked to a resident a little while ago who told me that he is actually, because of the downgrade of the wind, going to ride it out because his biggest fear, believe it or not, isn't this water you're looking at. It's the flooding inland in Kenson, in New Bern, in Jacksonville, and he fears that should he go inside, he knows the worst part of this storm, as Janice was talking about, is the flooding coming from the extended excessive rainfall as well as the continued surge, and he doesn't want to get trapped inland and not able to get back here now. So really quite.
And just got a new tweet from headquarters that I am going to share with you guys. This is from Tim Buckley, meteorologist. He says winds gusting closer to 90 miles per hour now in Jacksonville and Havelock right now. And you can see all around the different wind gust amounts as Hurricane Florence is approaching. Now remember, if you guys have any information at all that you would like to share, see featured on the broadcast about Hurricane Florence that I haven't shared yet, please send it to me on Twitter at Alyssa RSBN, whether that is an article, pictures, videos, live streams, whatever you've got, send it to me on Twitter. And huge thank you to everyone that has already contributed so far. And taking a look right now, this is one of our live feeds off the coast. You can see just how bad the rain is coming down. I'm going to take a listen to what it sounds like. No sound coming in, but you can imagine just how bad those wind gusts are. As you see the rain coming down and really just affecting all of the vegetation here. And this is from Surfline. You can see the surf coming up as well, a little blurry, but definitely looks like high tide. And we're going to take another look at that Facebook Live map and try to get some updates for you all.
Hard to do. Florence, one of our lights getting blown over by the strong wind here. My photog, Rob McMahon, taking care of that. Will emergency broadcast phone alerts still work without power in the area? So that's a great question. Who asked that? Paul Vasquez Negron. That is an excellent question, and I kind of know the answer to that because the cell phone towers could go out, and that's what we get those emergency alerts with. So that's why they always tell people to have a weather radio because your cell phone may not get you that alert. Just take a look. So it looks like we have lost power here in this shopping center behind me. If you may be able to tell, if you were watching, the lights were on these storefronts. I don't know if that has something to do with a clock or a timer, or if this area now, I actually am looking around at some of the other buildings, some of the storefronts, they're still working. So that must be like a timer. So if you saw the lights go out behind me during that really strong gust, I don't think that had anything to do with Hurricane Florence. I think that more so has to do with this shopping center and some of the stores having their lights on their storefront on a timer. Let's see, what else?
And that was reporter Jonathan Lowe with Spectrum News North Carolina with an update. Also wanted to shout out, we got a $24.99 donation from Jesus is Lord 5454. Thank you so much for always being a loyal supporter. Really appreciate you. And she said, I can't figure out why sometimes you sound great and sometimes you sound like you're in a faraway cave, but you youngins are doing great. Love y'all, RSBN. Thank you so much, Jesus is Lord. Kind of just working with this mic. It's very directional, so sometimes I have to remember to pull it over with me, and sometimes I forget. So sorry about that. But also, it looks like we got a tweet from Tom O'Neill, one of our fantastic reporters. Thank you so much, Tom. And it is a video that I'm going to share with everyone. And it is from the Weather Channel. And it says storm surge will be a huge factor for Hurricane Florence. Check out what it might look like with the Weather Channel's Erica Navarro.
Florence is a large and extremely destructive hurricane. Storm surge is going to be potentially life-threatening for some areas along the U.S. coastline. And already this morning, we've seen the water picking up over some of the roadways. Let's go ahead and take a look at what could be a reasonable worst-case scenario for areas along North Carolina. All the way here from Surf City to North Topsail Beach, we could be talking about up to 6 feet of storm surge. And again, impacts have already begun today with the storm approaching. Even inland, it's not just going to be a coastal event here. Areas along rivers like the Tar River here in the Greenville and Simpson area, we could be talking about 6 to potentially 9 feet of storm surge, given how that high tide comes in with that storm. But this is just what it looks like on the map. We can show you what this could look like if you were to find yourself in this scenario. Once that water comes up to 3 feet, you can see it would be coming up my shins up towards my waist. This could be enough to knock you off your feet. It could even float some cars that could be parked on the side of the roadway. This is extremely dangerous, but once we get up into that 6-foot range, look at how high this water goes. Winds pick everything up. Cars would be floating at this point. This water's over my head. I wouldn't be able to stand here, even withstand the force of the water coming in. There might even be dangers like chemicals and power lines lurking in the waters. But once we get to that 9-foot range, this is an absolute life-threatening scenario. This water is through the first floor of your home into the second. You can see there's fish floating around in here. This is an extremely dangerous and life-threatening situation. So if you find yourself here, please get out. If you're told to go, you need to go. Listen to those local officials and make sure you heed the advice if told to do so.
So really a cool video. Thank you so much, Tom, for sharing that. Really appreciate you. So cool how they do all of that just with a green screen. It looks like she was actually there in the middle of 9 feet of water. So going to keep checking and seeing what else you guys sent. And we're also going to continue looking at that Facebook Live map to see what else we can find.
That's what the city is encouraging everyone to do, to stay off. No need
and they are threatening to issue tickets and get people in trouble for that. But we've been out here all day, and it has been it's been really interesting and nice to speak with so many people that have just come down here. A lot of the kids telling me that they're so happy to be out of school and that they're having fun. You know, and parents just coming out here to take a look at what the conditions are like. Right now, it's pretty dead. The boardwalk doesn't have a lot of people. We did just see the police drive by in their SUV, but for the most part, I'll show you this way. Not a lot going on right now here. You can see the palm trees blowing out here. You know, that intense rain, but really not too much out here in the ocean front. We haven't been dealing with a lot. Now, a lot of the businesses do have sandbags that are set up along their storefronts and along their doors as a preventative measure for whatever comes our way. Take a look. There he is. In Neptune. I love looking at that statue. I love it. Look, that's good, Robert. Glad to hear that. Oh, thank you so much, Susan. Yes. He's just out here. What a beautiful statue. Yeah, but just wind. That's what we're experiencing now. And you can see not much going on out here right now. Thank you, Patricia. We appreciate it. Yeah, Ryan's such a sweetie pie. He's been working hard. He's got to carry all that stuff.
And switching it over, going to show you guys some more Facebook Live videos. That was from Margaret Kavanaugh of WTKR at the Virginia Beach oceanfront.
Or whatever it may be to find stuff that people are putting in.
Or the highest ever.
So this looks like someone that just stayed home, and we are going to show you guys this video.
See that right there? Wipe this phone off, the water get to it. See a little bit better. Y'all, it is kicking, and I know you can't smell on the phone, but you can smell a major electric fire. We understand there's a home on fire in Trent Shores, but the water is so deep over there that fire rescue cannot get to the home. It's kicking out here. We kept thinking these winds were going to let up, but they are doing nothing but getting stronger. We wipe this phone off again. As you can see, this is the porch area that I'm standing under this canopy right here, looking out this way. And we've got major waves just crashing up. Look here. Can you see this? I mean, these steps right here that these waves are crashing onto are usually 20 feet above the river. We are running a generator right now, but it is almost underwater itself. We're going to have to shut it down. Again, there's this boat that's just pinned up against the roof deck. We'll shine this light just so you can see. Again, I'm standing under a canopy. You can see this wind and this rain. These waves just crashing into the yard. right now. Again, we're hearing that the Trent and Neuse River levels are the highest ever recorded. I've been here for 36 years. I've never seen it like this. And we're just at one location. We understand downtown New Bern is under 8 to 10 feet of water. Even areas many blocks inland, people are having to move vehicles. We understand the Robinson and Stith office, which is several blocks from the river, is being threatened by water right now. I think our generator just went. All right, there goes the top of that tree gone.
So kind of hard to see, but you got a second. You could really see the water just coming up on those steps. That was from Walt Creighton, and he said that those steps are usually 20 miles above water. And also wanted to give you guys a breaking news update. Hurricane Florence is now a Category 1 hurricane with winds of 90 miles per hour. And we are going to keep you updated on that throughout the night. And it has not made landfall yet. So we are going to continue to look through these Facebook Live videos and just see what we can find as people are giving live updates. I'm going to refresh the page real quick. This is from WJHL. And no sound here, but this is a live look at Hurricane Florence battering Wilmington, North Carolina. You can see those boats that are still in the water and rainfall just all over coming up on the camera lens. Definitely crazy in Wilmington. And we're also going to look at this radar. This is live from WLTX News 19. And you can see Hurricane Florence coming close to the coast. And the center is expected to come ashore tomorrow morning. And also taking a look from WCIV, ABC News 4.
Strong side and the south side, the weaker side. We will always be on the south side of this storm. And that means we're not going to get nearly the impacts that they're getting up in North Carolina. Really feel bad for our neighbors up there to the north. Hopefully the damage is not too bad. But this storm moving inland here, it's about 195 miles from the mouth of the Charleston Harbor up to the mouth or the eye of that hurricane there just off of Wilmington. Here are your tropical impacts. We'll go ahead and see what we've got coming. Tropical storm force winds, everyone will get these. And we're going to be looking at gusts, possibly up around 50. Now, if you're in Georgetown or Horry County, you are going to get some gusts up around hurricane strength. Dangerous ocean conditions. Stay away from the ocean. This is going to get even worse tomorrow and Saturday. And then later, as we go through Friday into Saturday, we'll see that rain impact and possible flooding. Changes will be coming due to the exact track, and the farther inland it moves, the weaker it gets. If it stays out over the ocean, it'll try to maintain a little bit of its strength, but it has weakened back to Category 1, and that weakening trend will continue. It's not going to blow.
So confirmed, you just heard him say it has weakened to a Category 1, but that does not mean that it isn't dangerous. So hopefully you have already evacuated. If you haven't, try to get out or find a safe place to hunker down, and hopefully you already got all of those groceries that you need. So also we're going to keep looking at some different live feeds on Facebook Live. But first, we're going to take a second and look at Twitter and see what people are saying about Hurricane Florence on Twitter. So here is a tweet from Jeff Baskin from Fox Channel 16. It says, Florence, a Category 1 hurricane with winds of 90 miles per hour. Hurricane force winds extend up to 70 miles away from center. Storm surge will be much greater than that of an average Category 1 due to its large size and slow motion. And Summer Dash just tweeted out, wow, first day on the job is day 1 of Hurricane Florence. We appreciate each of you. Thank you for stepping up to do this job. And these are some members of the Myrtle Beach Police Department. Their first day, it says they're sworn in and ready to get on the road. A first day they won't forget. And also, looking at an article from the New York Times, Hurricane Florence is going to slow down, and that's not good. It says with wind speeds that have approached 140 miles per hour, Hurricane Florence isn't exactly slow, but forecasters don't expect the storm to blow through quickly once it reaches land. Instead, they think it will stall, much as Hurricane Harvey did over Houston last year, besieging the area for days with wind and rain. And that is part of the reason Florence is expected to be so dangerous. So unfortunately, Florence and Harvey are not alone. Tropical cyclones, which include hurricanes, have grown more sluggish since the mid-20th century, researchers say. And a study published this summer in the journal Nature focused on what is known as translation speed, which measures how quickly a storm is moving over an area, say from Miami to the Florida Panhandle. And between 1949 and 2016, tropical cyclone translation speeds declined 10% worldwide, the study says. The storms, in effect, are sticking around places for a longer period of time. And lingering hurricanes can be a problem, as Texas learned when Harvey caused devastating flooding and billions of dollars of damage. And the storm dropped more than 30 inches of rain in 2 days and nearly 50 inches over 4 days in some places. And a report issued in June by Harris County, which includes Houston, found that Harvey's rainfall exceeded every known flooding event in American history since 1999. So Deanna Hentz, who is a professor of atmospheric sciences at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, said the really high rainfall totals were because the storm moved so slowly. She said the large amount of rain that's going to come out of a tropical storm or hurricane anyway fell in the same place over a long period of time. Now, to analyze the changes in translation speeds, I am going to get rid of that extra audio. So to analyze the changes in translation speeds, James Cawson, who's a climate scientist with the National Centers for Environmental Information at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, tapped into a global data set on past tropical storms, and the data included estimates of the latitude and longitude of each named storm center at 6-hour intervals. Now, by comparing a storm's given positions over a period of time, Dr. Cosson was able to measure how quickly it had moved across the landscape, and he then calculated the average speeds of the storms from year to year and found that tropical cyclones have been slowing over time. So there were limitations to this analysis, Dr. Hent said. The study did not say how much of the extra rainfall produced by a storm like Harvey was caused by the storm staying in one place as compared to other contributing factors like the unusually warm ocean waters that fueled the hurricane. So there's also the question of what is even causing this slowdown, which the study didn't answer directly, but broader evidence suggests that climate change is playing a role. And belts of wind known as steering winds are responsible for moving hurricanes along their paths. Dr. Cosson said hurricanes are carried passively by the winds that we're sitting in. It's not quite like a cork and stream, but not too different either. So the steering winds draw power from the temperature differences between the tropics and the poles, but because of climate change, that temperature difference is declining, weakening the winds. And the slower steering winds move hurricanes more slowly. And Jeff Masters, director of meteorology at the forecasting service Weather Underground, said that is what's expected to happen with Florence. It's going to come roaring into the coast Thursday night or Friday morning, penetrate inland maybe only a few tens of miles, and then meander for several days erratically because of the steering currents are going to collapse. And Dr. Masters said a good part of its circulation will be over water, which means it's going to continue sucking up a lot of moisture from the ocean and dumping it as heavy rain inland. And as I finish this up, going to give you guys another live look of the radar from windy.com. So adding to the evidence of slowing cyclones, researchers at the National Center for Atmospheric Research compared computer simulations of 22 past storms with simulations of those same storms based on future climate conditions. And they found that the average hurricane translation speeds slowed in the future simulations. And the Journal of Climate published their conclusions this year. So a growing body of research is showing that hurricanes are becoming more dangerous. And a recent analysis by climate scientists, though not a peer-reviewed study, suggested that even as the winds that move hurricanes are getting weaker, the winds inside hurricanes are getting stronger. And Dr. Cosson said the threats aren't limited to those who live along the coastlines. Freshwater flooding is particularly dangerous because that happens inland and people don't typically evacuate. If you live in a place with any sort of mountainous area of any topography at all, really, then you have that compound danger of mudslides. And as it's turning out, it's the freshwater flooding that poses the highest mortality risk nowadays in certain regions. So going to let you guys continue to take a look at this live radar. Remember, if you have any sources at all, any articles about just what's expected with Hurricane Florence or effects, preparations, videos, pictures, whatever it is, send it to me on Twitter at Alyssa RSBN. And I will share that real quick in the YouTube chat room. And going to check on Facebook as well just to see what you guys are saying over there. Don't want to miss you guys. And Tina Marie over on Facebook sharing some memories. She said, I live in Louisiana. I was in Hurricane Imitable in Hawaii and Hurricane Hugo in North Charleston, South Carolina. That's where it made landfall. We didn't have electricity for 17 days. It was awful. And she meant to say Hurricane Iniki in Hawaii. Thank you for sharing that with us, Tina Marie. So also some information from Fox News while you are taking a look at this live radar. You can see Hurricane Florence getting closer and closer to the coast. So from Fox News, this is just from a couple hours ago. It says Hurricane Florence was moving at a slower speed of 5 miles per hour with life-threatening storm surge and rainfall forecasted, officials said, and gusty winds were pummeling the southeastern coast by Thursday evening as a tattered American flag was seen flying feverishly on a live surf camera at Frying Pan Tower in North Carolina. And hurricane force winds have begun hitting the state's coast, according to the National Hurricane Center in an 8 p.m. update. So the storm is currently situated roughly 85 miles east-southeast of Wilmington, North Carolina, and about 145 miles east of Myrtle Beach. And Florence is moving northwest at 5 miles per hour with maximum sustained winds of 100 miles per hour, but now that is down to 90 miles per hour. And the update said, on the forecast track, the center of Florence will approach the coast of North and South Carolina later tonight, then move near or over the coast of southern North Carolina and northeastern South Carolina in the hurricane warning area on Friday, and a slow motion across portions of eastern and central South Carolina is forecast Friday night into Saturday night. So the storm, which at the time was listed as a Category 2, now it is a Category 1, is likely to bring significant rain to the Carolinas, where some places could see upwards of 20 inches, the update said, and this is expected to cause catastrophic flash flooding and prolong significant river flooding. So the agency said a mix of storm surge and tides could result in flooding from rising water levels. And from Cape Fear to Cape Lookout, North Carolina, could see as much as 7 to 11 feet of water, according to the update. So storm surge and hurricane warnings were in effect for the South Santee River, South Carolina, through to Duck, North Carolina, as well as Albemarle and Pamlico Sounds in North Carolina, the agency said. And areas from Edisto Beach to the South Santee River in South Carolina were under both a storm surge and hurricane watch, while areas located north of Duck, North Carolina to the state's border with Virginia were under a storm surge watch, according to the update. So Hurricane Florence is forecast to progressively weaken after its center meanders near the coast or moves inland, the update said. Now, 7,000 troops are prepared to deploy in response to Hurricane Florence. Air Force General Terrence J. O'Shaughnessy said during a Pentagon briefing Thursday the troops have surrounded what are expected to be affected areas and are ready to deploy as soon as the request is made. So the storm's size and sluggish track could cause significant damage in the area, forecasters predicted. And National Hurricane Center Director Ken Graham said it truly is really about the whole size of the storm. The larger and the slower the storm is, the greater the threat and the impact. And we have that. And the hurricane was seen as a major test for FEMA, which was heavily criticized as sluggish and unprepared for Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico last year. So schools and businesses as far south as Georgia were closed. About 1,200 flights and counting were canceled, and coastal towns in the Carolinas were largely emptied out. And let's see, Mrs. Jensen over on YouTube said, check out the Camp Lejeune Facebook page. Cool video. I will definitely check on that. Thank you for letting me know about it. But real quick before that, we are going to look at a live video on Facebook from Missy Norris.
I hadn't slept all day. I was out trying to get all the rest of the stuff done. Everything tied down and brought in. I miss you too, Brittany. Love you, girl. I hate it we didn't get to go see y'all when we were in Georgia this past weekend. There just wasn't enough time on our little 2-day trip there. Maggie, how's the weather where you're at? Are you still up here? Thank you, Kayla. Yeah, I told Andy earlier that I couldn't believe that Bubba and them stayed at Sneaks Ferry as bad as it is that way. I hate that. I wish to God they would have come down here and stayed with some of us. Or went somewhere. Ain't that the truth, Brittany? I know, Maggie. I'm right there with you. Mine are too. Kayla, the hurricane, they were saying it was supposed to hit earlier, but as far as I know, it's still lingering right at the coast. I have not been able to watch the news because Channel 12 went out, so I've been trying to keep up with it on the Weather Channel, but my service is so sucky, I can't even get that fully, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on with it right now. So if anybody's got any updates, by all means, please share them. Thanks, Ashley. Good sleeping weather. Who can sleep in this mess? Hey, Dawn. Yeah. Hey, Daddy. I know, Maggie, that's what worries me.
So that was from Lyman, North Carolina, and you could just see how much wind and rain coming in all around her house. I know you could kind of hear her interacting with her friends and family on that live chat. I want to take a moment and show you guys. This is the most updated model from the National Hurricane Center showing the hurricane coming in, actually making landfall in two different areas tomorrow at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. along the coast. And wanted to shout out, thank you so much, Little Lord Fauntleroy, for your $20 donation. Thank you so much. He says, can you talk about the particulars of this storm, please, and take questions from the chat? When and where is the landfall? How much rain has fallen? This we wish to know. Thank you. So right now, that amount of rain that has fallen is not out yet, still coming down. But you can see right here on this model where we are expecting landfall on the coast, kind of the southern coast of North Carolina and the northern coast of South Carolina tomorrow at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. So stay tuned. We're going to be bringing you coverage on and off all day tomorrow. And want to give you guys some live looks right now at those satellites. Again, first we're going to look at Wrightsville Beach. You can still see all the rain coming down. It is absolutely crazy. Hard to see much. You can see a little bit of the surf behind the rain coming down. And also going to take a look at that feed from Myrtle Beach. It's a little dark, but you can see the surf coming up. And we are going to, I'm going to continue looking at Facebook Live and try to get some new videos for you guys.
Cheated.
Yeah. Aside from that gentleman a little bit ago, has anyone else been trying to kind of come over?
And going to switch over, got a feed for you guys from WBTW News 13, where the National Guard and Pawleys Island Police actually are stationing barricades on the North Causeway in Pawleys Island. Was about to show you guys that one and it went out, so hold on and stay tuned for another one. Thank you. And this is Joe Planko, downtown Wilmington, North Carolina.
Down the street. Oh. Be sometime tomorrow morning, like maybe 5, 6 o'clock. Come to the tunnel there. Pretty drenched now, guys. Taking shelter behind this building here downtown. I don't know what the fuck. See this poor body.
And that one kind of got interrupted, so we are going to continue to look for more on the Facebook Live map. And here is one from the SS Storm Chase and Forecast team.
Appreciate it, guys. Appreciate the likes. See those thumbs, hearts. Appreciate everything. And we're going to flip the camera around. You guys can see my ugly face. There we go. All right, guys. So this is what we got going on. As you see, I'm harnessed up here with a full body harness that is all bungee corded up as well, and that should hold us pretty well. So that will basically keep everything in check as far as that goes. And that's again, full body harness, and we have that attached to another rope that attaches to the frame of the truck, and that'll keep us from going away from the truck too far. Keep us around 50 feet from the truck. Okay, so let's go ahead real quick and show you. Guys, give this video a like and share while we're out, please. Let me see those thumbs, please. Get those out there. We got film crew coming that we're going to pick up now that just came from Florida. But this is Chase 17, guys. For those of you that thought this earlier in one of the donation posts that we did, our only donation post, guys, if you want to donate at the top of the app, it says donate. We would appreciate it. This is not fun, believe me. $5, $6, $1, $20, we don't care. Anything would help us, because we are all volunteers. The only way that we get a penny out of this, and that doesn't go in our pockets, that goes right back to the things that we do, special need birthday parties and all that. So special need children like my own. So autism, we've got you guys. So we are here to take care of them and let them have some fun with the Chase trucks. We go out to birthday parties and all that fun stuff. In any event, this is Chase 17. Some of you have seen them on the road in York, Pennsylvania. We're based out of South Central PA in York County. And this is actually Hurricane Irma that we have put on the side of the truck. And it's kind of hard to see the rest with the lights being right in the ring. Basically here, we got full lights around the truck. And right now our wind speed is somewhere in the neighborhood of was guys. Last wind we had was 45.
And that one is getting a little bit hard to hear, but really cool seeing what their plans are to actually chase the storm. Also, I got a couple messages from viewers. Thank you, Rick Bulow, for sending this Earth Cam a live look at Myrtle Beach, where you can see the surge, the surf really coming up on the shore. It is a little dark, but still a good picture. And Rick Bulow said, I went through Hurricane Charlie in Southwest Florida in 2004, had no power for a week, then Irma last year, no power for 3 days. Charlie and Irma were Cat 4 when landed. Luckily, Florence lost steam before landing. And while we look at this live look from Myrtle Beach, going to share with you guys some information, another article from the British Patriot. Thank you so much for sharing this. This is from the Weather Channel, posted less than an hour ago. 158,000 people have already lost power as Hurricane Florence slams North Carolina. Floodwaters wash over beaches into cities. So kind of at a glance, Hurricane Florence has knocked out power to more than 158,000 homes and businesses statewide, and flooding has been reported on Outer Banks, in New Bern, and along the Cape Fear River. Now, a 10-foot storm surge was reported at Morehead City, and about 12,000 people are in 126 evacuation shelters, state officials said. So more than 158,000 homes and businesses have lost power as Hurricane Florence smashed into eastern North Carolina late Thursday evening, and Florence crashed into the coast with heavy surf and torrential rain that triggered flooding and knocked down trees. So the first flooding was reported near North Carolina 12. The roadway that runs through the Outer Banks, the chain of barrier islands off the North Carolina coast. And the state transportation department said water and sand cover the highway near Rodanthe and in Avon, Buxton, and just north of Hatteras Village. And flooding also worsened Thursday in New Bern, a city of about 30,000 located along the Neuse River, when the river overflowed its banks and roads were covered with floodwater in what was expected to be the first of many waves of ever worsening floods for the city. So WCTI, the ABC affiliate station in New Bern, had to evacuate their studios as flooding actually started coming into the building. And more than 12.5 inches of rain was measured on Atlantic Beach on Thursday night, according to the USGS. And ahead of the storm, Governor Roy Cooper ordered a mandatory evacuation of all barrier islands. Evacuation orders are usually issued locally, and several areas already ordered evacuations ahead of Cooper's decree. And scenes of storm surge washing over roads and sloshing into houses on the state's beaches played out all afternoon, including on Avon Beach, Carolina Beach, and Topsail Beach. And Carolina Beach officials announced at 10:30 p.m. that Snowcutt's Bridge was closed. A storm surge of 10 feet above normal levels was reported at the Cherry Branch Ferry Terminal on the Neuse River in Havelock. And a gauge at Oriental on the Neuse River recorded water heights of about 6 feet above normal levels, according to the National Weather Service. And over on Facebook, Robson Quintella just said, "What is Florence's strength right now?" But the rest of you answered him before I could even get to him. Thank you, Zoom, Brian, and Todd. So it is currently a Category 1 with 90 mile per hour wind speeds, but still huge and still very dangerous no matter what category it is. So going back to the rest of this article from weather.com. So at a Thursday evening news conference, Governor Cooper said flooding had also been reported along the Cape Fear River, which flows south of Wilmington, and at the Bogue Sound south of Morehead City. And he said wind and waves are driving water onto roads along the coast. And Cooper said, "We in North Carolina have to shift from preparation to determination. We will survive this and endure." And as Florence's high winds moved onshore, gas station canopies were ripped from their supports and trees tumbled. And about 12,000 people are in 126 evacuation shelters, Mike Sprayberry, Emergency Management Director, said. And the governor said 750,000 to 1 million people heeded the evacuation orders. So as of 10:45 p.m., poweroutage.us reported that 158,869 homes and businesses were without electricity. And tornado warnings were issued at various times for Dare, Craven, and Carteret counties, and strong winds and heavy rain were moving across Camp Lejeune on Thursday evening, and the camp's Facebook page said all but the essential operations were secured, vehicular traffic had stopped, and personnel and base residents were required to remain indoors until normal operations resume. So also looking at airports, many flights into and out of North Carolina have been canceled, and airports urge travelers to check with their airline for the most up-to-date information on flights. And the Raleigh-Durham International Airport said about half of the 400 arrivals and departures scheduled for Friday have been canceled because of the weather. And the Charlotte Douglas International Airport remains open, but nearly 200 flights have been canceled on Friday. And as of 7 p.m. Thursday, 126 arrivals and departures have been canceled for Saturday, according to the FlightAware website. So the Wilmington International Airport will have no flights coming or going on Thursday or Friday. And we're also going to look at a few images, not all of them, because there are 308, but we're going to take a look at a few images on this website. So right here you can see Michael Nelson floating in a boat made from a metal tub and fishing floats after the News River went over its banks and flooded his street during Hurricane Florence. And another picture of him floating in that homemade boat. And this says men packed their belongings after evacuating their house after the News River went over its banks and flooded their street during Hurricane Florence in New Bern, North Carolina. And right here you can see portions of a boat dock and boardwalk are destroyed by powerful wind and waves as Hurricane Florence arrives in Atlantic Beach. And here residents walking in flooded streets as the News River floods its banks during Hurricane Florence. This is in New Bern, South Carolina. You can see people walking with water all the way up to their knees and their waist right here. Now also you can see floodwater covering the walkway to the Bridgepoint Hotel and Marina as the News River floods its banks during Hurricane Florence. This is in James City. And also Cheyenne Coleman getting a hand from a friend, Austin Gremmel, as they walk in flooded streets as the News River begins to flood its banks during Hurricane Florence. And this is in New Bern, North Carolina. So here, volunteers from Crisis Response International unload supplies as rain from Hurricane Florence falls in Wilmington, North Carolina. And here you can see a man taking pictures of the flooded streets as the News River floods its banks in New Bern. And right here, water all the way up to the top of this sign. It says parks closed due to storm and no trespassing, kind of hidden by the water. And here you can actually see a trash can floating through the Trent Court Public Housing Apartments after the News River topped its banks during Hurricane Florence. And waves slamming the Oceana Pier and Pier House restaurant in Atlantic Beach, North Carolina. You can see the waves all the way up to the top of the restaurant, top of the pier. Just insane waves. And then here, floodwaters began to overtake the Sneads Ferry boating access by the New River in Sneads Ferry, North Carolina. And here, an American Red Cross aid worker walking through the cafeteria at Conway High School, which is being used as a Hurricane Florence evacuation shelter at Conway High School. And here you can see Avar Vereen and her fiance and one of her 7 children taking shelter at a Hurricane Florence evacuation center at Conway High School. And here, members of the Missouri Search and Rescue Team, part of FEMA, hold a team briefing as they unload their gear at a staging area as Hurricane Florence starts to make landfall in Leland, North Carolina. So here you can see caution tape blocking off access to the seawall at the Georgetown waterfront in Washington, D.C. And a houseboat floats by a flooded dock on the New River in Sneads Ferry, North Carolina. And here, members of the Missouri Search and Rescue Team, part of FEMA, unload their gear at a staging area as Hurricane Florence starting to make landfall with Leland, North Carolina. And here, flash flooding covers the roads in low-lying areas as the outer edges of Hurricane Florence begin to affect the coast. And here, members of the Missouri Search and Rescue Team, part of FEMA, are holding a briefing as they unload their gear at a staging area as Hurricane Florence starts to make landfall in Leland, North Carolina. And here, waves from Hurricane Florence pounding the Bogue Inlet Pier in Emerald Isle, North Carolina. And here, New Hanover Sheriff's Corps North Brothers wraps a gas pump for protection in Wilmington, North Carolina, as Hurricane Florence threatens the coast on Thursday. And you can see here, people are placing sandbags on their home, protecting, in the front of the garage, they are protecting a chicken coop that they moved inside prior to Hurricane Florence. And going to give you guys another live look at our satellite.
All right, everybody. What we're looking at right now, I know that this has sort of become this night is kind of dragging along, and I know a lot of people were expecting sort of a bigger storm than this, but it's actually good news that this has weakened to a Category 1. The thing that I know, and we don't say it because we want more people to watch, but if you really want to look back at history and look at storms like Hurricane Katrina, I said it last night that it was the media hyped it up. It was a Category 5, and then it came back down to, I think it was a 2 when it hit. And people were like, so what? It's not going to do anything major. But then obviously we know what happened. And I think the real threat with this storm is going to be, look at this thing. This is the wind speeds. Yeah, they're down to 90 miles an hour. It's a Category 1 storm. But the most important thing is the storm surge. This is going to drop just incredible amounts of rain in these areas, and people are going to lose their homes. People, if they're still there, are going to be trapped in some pretty crazy situations there. This is just not a good situation to be in with the hurricane stalling out like this. That is what is so dangerous about this. If it's a quick moving storm, we've seen hurricanes in the past, they come right through, they dissipate as soon as they get to the shore and turn into tropical depressions, down to tropical storms, and then tropical depressions. But what we have right now is a situation where it's doing what Hurricane Katrina did, and it is stalling out. If you look at the radar and you see the fact that this thing was supposed to make landfall about 2 a.m. Eastern time Friday morning, it's not even close. It is stalled and slowed down to about 5 miles per hour, and that is a dangerous thing because of the amounts of rainfall that's going to drop on places like Wilmington and Jackson and Jacksonville. This is it's just bad. And in inland, you're going to see just as much rain with this storm as some of the areas on the coast. And so what we're looking at is a storm that, maybe the wind speed isn't that bad, but the danger from this storm was never going to be from the winds anyway. It was always going to be from the storm surge and the floods, which could last for in the Wilmington area, in the Jacksonville area there, areas along the coast in Oriental and Topsail for several hours now with no end in sight. This thing may not make it on shore until 8 a.m. this morning. And that is just an estimate, obviously, if you look at the cone. And I'll pull the cone up right now for you really quick. Let's see what the new cone is according to the National Hurricane Center. All right, so we look at the cone now, and I can remember looking at this days ago, and this thing has really taken its sweet time getting here. But if you look at where we are now, it looks like 8 a.m. Saturday is when we expect this thing to finally come ashore. It may make landfall twice, actually. It may clip the coast there, the state line there, North Carolina, South Carolina, and then actually go back offshore. Probably not much strengthening associated with it, but then, come on shore again, maybe as a tropical storm in South Carolina. So that is what we're looking at with this storm. It's just going to be slow. It's going to be, sort of stalling out and dropping loads of rainfall in the Carolinas. So everybody, I'm sure that the time to evacuate has come and gone. So if you're still there, God be with you is what I can say. But just understand that we'll keep an eye on it here. We are going to be live all day tomorrow as well, and we'll keep monitoring it. Let's see what we have as far as if there's any of these. Most of these cameras that we have are sort of it's a little dark to see what we've got going on here, but we will have a better picture tomorrow of that. So I am going to turn it over here in just a second, back to Alyssa.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in to our continued coverage. We're going to be on for about half an hour or so more, so stay tuned, and we are going to keep taking a look at Twitter to see what people are saying about Hurricane Florence. So this is from WJCL News. It says Hurricane Florence churning waves as high as 83 feet. And you can see this model here with lines kind of both outside of the eye of the storm. And it says altimeter pass with seas 59 to 83 feet high. And here's a live video from Jen VC. She says, watch Storm Mapping's broadcast tracking Hurricane Florence as it inches closer to Wilmington, North Carolina.
Winds are really starting to kick up now. Yeah, they are.
And you can see just heavy rains coming down. Looks like they are stuck in traffic. And also, I'm going to throw up again that live radar from Windy so you can see the storm's path right now. And while we're looking at this, I'm going to share another article one of our viewers sent, Rick Bulow. Thank you so much for sharing this. This was actually from yesterday, and it's why ham radio operators play a vital role in hurricane response. So this is out of Birmingham, Alabama, and it says, with winds barreling toward the East Coast at 150 miles per hour, and as you know now, it is down to 90 miles per hour, Hurricane Florence could knock out lines of communication for days. And it says, if she does, amateur radio operators like Van Martin will be vital. So amateur radio is a means of communication without reliant on modern technology like cell phones or landlines, according to Martin. He says we can use batteries, we can set up an antenna, particularly anywhere. We're able to get to the site as quickly as anyone else, barring first responders, and we become a helpmate to these organizations. Now, Martin, the head of amateur radio of Alabama, has seen such a help during natural disasters like Hurricane Katrina and Snowmageddon. And he especially remembers information ham operators were able to relay about Bessemer during the April 2011 tornadoes. And he says in this instance, these people were able to listen to amateur radio on a scanner. They were not operators, but they were able to have a handheld scanner and hear our information and seek shelter in a time that particularly saved their life. Now, with a network of more than 12,000 licensed operators in Alabama, Martin has already reached out to his counterparts in the states Florence is slated to hit, letting them know they are ready to help. And he said, so it has many aspects, from the fun to the serve to actually we can make a difference in somebody's life. And officials with Jefferson County Emergency Management Agency certainly realize the benefits of amateur radio. In their radio room, they have a ham operation set up, and several EMA officers are already amateur radio operators, and by mid-December, all the EMA staff will be. Also, wanted to shout out, thank you so much to Mouser over on YouTube. Just received a $2 donation. Thank you so much for supporting and helping make these broadcasts possible, and also helping us to travel to President Trump rallies. We are expecting one next week in Phoenix, Arizona for Wednesday or Thursday, but that has not been confirmed yet by the campaign. So stay tuned. That is just what we've heard. And of course, if you want to donate, you can do so in the super chat by hitting that $sign down below, or by going to rsbnetwork.com/donate. You will see the 3 different ways there. So thank you so much to Rick Bulow for that article. And I'm going to keep checking my Twitter just to see what else you guys have sent. And thank you so much on Twitter to Amir for this article. This is one I've seen a little bit but haven't shared yet, and it is from CBS News. So, Hurricane Florence relief, Budweiser is actually canning water instead of beer. So when major disasters strike, such as what promises to deliver, some Budweiser breweries can temporarily turn their canning operations from beer to water as a way to help communities that are hit. And Cesar Vargas, the Vice President of Legal and Corporate Affairs at the Anheuser-Busch plant in Fort Collins, Colorado, told CBS affiliate KCNC, "We've already sent water to the Carolinas. We already had that request, so it's already there staged just in case it's needed. We've just paused for a couple days, and we can produce thousands and thousands of cases of water." Now, the Fort Collins Brewery is one of 2 Busch locations that periodically switches its operations to canning water, so the Red Cross has a supply on hand when disasters hit, be it a wildfire or a hurricane. Now, Budweiser said in a statement that it's also sending 6 truckloads or more than 300,000 cans of drinking water to North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia from its facility in Cartersville, Georgia. And the water will be sent to the company's wholesale partners, which will coordinate with emergency services to distribute it to communities in need. And Vargas said, "The fact that we can help our neighbors when they need it most, it really is a special feeling." And Hurricane Florence, which is currently on track to slam into the East Coast, could cost more than $170 billion and damage nearly 759,000 homes and businesses, according to analytics from the firm CoreLogic. And that would make Florence the costliest storm ever to hit the U.S. in terms of property loss. And North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper warned in a news conference Tuesday that Florence could be a once-in-a-lifetime type of storm and urged residents to take precautions. He said, "This storm is a monster. Even if you've ridden out storms before, this one is different. Don't bet your life on riding out a monster." And we also are going to take a look again at that Facebook Live map just to see what people are sharing about Hurricane Florence. And remember, if you have any more articles, pictures, videos, information that I have not shared yet, send it to me on Twitter at Alyssa RSBN, and I will be glad to share that with everyone. So it is taking a second to load right now. So we are going to take a look at Twitter and see what people are saying about Hurricane Florence. So this is from James Wilson. He says winds from Hurricane Florence are down to 90 miles per hour, but that doesn't decrease the storm surge, power outage, or flooding threat from the slow moving storm. Keep your guard and stay safe. And he shared a couple pictures. So you can see right now down to a Category 1 hurricane, 90 miles per hour, but gusts at 120 miles per hour, and it is moving northwest at 6 miles per hour. And you can see on this chart here some different wind gusts in North Carolina. Cape Lookout at 106 miles per hour, Fort Macon 105 miles per hour, Beaufort 99 miles per hour, Davis 98 miles per hour, and Cedar Island at 89 miles per hour. And this is also a wind map. You can see the different colors here, the light pink most widespread, and then likely, and the purple possible. This is the power outage potential. I'm sorry, not the wind map. So also here, looking at some rain totals stretching across the coast of North Carolina, South Carolina, and even into Virginia. So the green for lighter levels of rain, just between 1 to 3 inches, the yellow 3 to 5 inches, and the red 8 to 12, dark pink 12 to 18 inches, and light pink 18 to 24 inches, and the white 24 inches, and right here it says 40 inches possible. And here's another video. It says Avon, North Carolina. Watch Hurricane Florence hit North Carolina coast with a local photographer.
Sorry about disconnecting. Hey everyone. Sorry about disconnecting. You won't believe it, but the wind actually knocked me over. The wind actually knocked me over. I was underneath the Avon Pier. There's my captain, Samantha. There's the Avon Pier. Oh man, that was an experience. Okay, so we're going out to the road to show you basically the damage that's already been caused. Another local driving around, checking it out. Again, this is Jason Cole and Samantha Stevens in Avon, North Carolina. We're on the Outer Banks. Right now, Hurricane Florence is set to hit us within a couple hours. So we're going to drive down the road. There. Sorry about the windshield wipers, everybody. Let's see. Okay, there's definitely excessive flooding. There we go. I'm going to bring it back in so I can talk. Hopefully you can hear me. Right now, currently, we do still have power. The island is unbelievably prepared for this. So we do have power at the moment. Basically, the Outer Banks is one road in. Oh, gotta put my seatbelt on. One road in and one road out is Highway 12 that runs through the entire Outer Banks. So this is the road that we're on. We're currently heading south. We're definitely in the hurricane at the moment. Let's show you. So these are the homes of the Outer Banks. Actually, Samantha, take them down Ocean View Drive. Let's just do it. Okay. Yeah, we'll just go down Ocean View. So it's kind of dangerous, but we want you guys to be able to see what we actually experience on a day-to-day basis when the storms are here. Wow, look at all. Watch out for that trash in the road, whatever it is, I don't know. It's a log, a freaking campfire log in the middle of the road. Okay, so sorry about the film, guys. So we're on Ocean View Drive in Avon, North Carolina. Just go right. We're in a Jeep. We'll get through anything. Oh, you want to go left?
Well, no, look at the sand.
Okay. So if you can see the sand right there, that is basically the dunes that were on the ocean from behind these houses. There were dunes. If you can see the dunes on the right between the gray and the yellow house, that is what's left of a dune. Turn the wipers on a little higher. And now they're already washed out into the road, if you can see that. Okay, so I should be in the back seat. Yeah, I see it. Okay, so now we're on Ocean View Drive, which is the oceanfront road to our town. And these are some of the premier homes that are on the island. Of course, thousands and thousands of people come here every summer to rent. And there was an automatic evacuation, I think, on Tuesday. So everybody's gone except for us crazy locals. So this one isn't too bad.
No, it was at high tide for sure.
Right now the water on the roads is not too bad. It's a few inches. The problem with this is such an immediate surge because the ocean literally comes over the top of the dunes and comes into the road within a matter of seconds. So our entire island is literally at the mercy of the tide, or the surge, if you will. Can you get through that trash? Don't hit those boards, they might have nails in them. Yeah, a lot of people did evacuate. Go up to Taj, babe. Taj is up there on the left. Try to get through the debris. Can you straddle that? Yep. It's got nails in it. Alright, so my girlfriend just ran over a 2x4 with nails. That's great. Can you straddle that one without hitting it?
Yes, I got this one. That was in my truck.
Just pull into Taj's driveway. Taj is right there.
Oh.
Try not to hit that tree. Okay, so we're gonna try to, we know where the driveway is, we think. Okay, so right now is about a foot of water. This is one of the nicer homes, the Taj Mahadders. Let's see, I don't think I can get out there with all that. I do want to show you guys, so if you'll just appease me for a minute, I'm not going to be able to talk because I'm going to go out and get, stop right there, you don't want to, sorry. I'm going to show you what his swimming pool looks like, but I can't talk to you while I'm out there, of course, because I'm going to be eating a sand sandwich. So just appease me, I'm going to run out there and show you, and then I'm going to come back, okay? So just 1 second. Everybody bear with me. Here we go. Literally. Okay, here we go.
So definitely dangerous that they were driving through that, but really interesting. Cool to see those water levels in Avon, North Carolina. And we are going to keep looking through Twitter just for a little bit longer to see what else people are saying about Hurricane Florence. And here is a live stream of Hurricane Florence, of just the rain coming down from Hurricane Florence outside of Wilmington. No sound on this one. You can see they're just driving through. But look, there are some downed trees already. And here is another GIF from Chris Ketz. It says 3 million people could be without power. And another look at Hurricane Florence. And this is from Aaron Yost, a meteorologist. It says the eye wall of Hurricane Florence is roughly 20 to 25 miles off the North Carolina coastline. Inside that band are the 90-mile-per-hour winds with this Category 1 storm. Life-threatening storm surge is occurring in portions of eastern North Carolina already. And again, here is the picture of that flag. This is the worst I've seen it. That is just absolutely torn up. Also, some information from World News Gateway I'm going to share with you guys. Not much coming up there. I am going to try that Facebook Live map again. I have a lot of tabs open, so that might be why it's not working. But also want to just take another look at the model from the National Hurricane Center, where you can see this was back at 11 a.m. Thursday. I want to try to find a more updated model for you guys. Okay, here's an updated one, and you can see it says 11 p.m. Thursday and then 8 a.m. Saturday, but it is expected to hit in the morning, unless it's changed now to Saturday morning. And this is from ABC News. So almost 160,000 without power as Hurricane Florence lashes North Carolina coast. So Hurricane Florence, with tropical storm winds hundreds of miles wide, began pounding the Carolina coastline on Thursday night as officials made last-minute pleas for residents to evacuate. So hurricane force winds are moving across portions of the North Carolina coast, and water levels were rising along the coastline. The threat of tornadoes increases as Florence moves closer, with landfall expected Friday morning. And the storm surge is expected to worsen late Thursday and into early Friday during high tide in the Atlantic Ocean. So around 11 p.m. local time, the storm was about 50 miles south of Morehead City, North Carolina, and 60 miles east-southeast of Wilmington. Now, Florence was progressing northwest at about 6 miles per hour. Earlier, a National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration observing site at Camp Lookout, North Carolina, reported sustained winds of 83 miles per hour and a gust of 106 miles per hour. So though the storm, once a Category 4, was downgraded Thursday night to a Category 1 from a Category 2, the danger is very real. Parts of North Carolina may see as much as 40 inches of rain, and storm surges could be as high as 13 feet. So Governor Roy Cooper said on Thursday, flooding and storm surge, those are the two main things that kill people, and this storm is not letting up. And the storm will churn very slowly Friday and Saturday, extending the damaging winds and huge amounts of rain that will hit the same areas of North Carolina and South Carolina for 24 hours. And high winds and floodwaters could knock power out for several days, if not longer, officials said. Almost 160,000 customers already were without power in North Carolina Thursday evening, and that number is likely to rise. So again, here's a look at the overwash on North Carolina 12, just north of Hatteras Village. Again, this is not the time to be out on the roads, either on Ocracoke or Hatteras Islands. So not too many new updates with Hurricane Florence. So I am going to wrap it up for tonight. Now, it is expected to make landfall tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. So stay tuned. We will be bringing you live coverage on and off all day just soon after it hits. And so thank you guys so much for joining. Really appreciate each and every single one of you, and thank you for tuning in to this special weather forecast covering Hurricane Florence, as we have been doing for the last few days. Again, thank you for joining. I hope you guys stay safe and you have a wonderful night. Once again, for Right Side Broadcasting Network, I'm Alyssa Ashe. See you tomorrow.